The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Hello everyone, welcome back to Parental Guidance Neglected, the only podcast that you'll ever need. I think it should be our new tagline. I think all our viewers should stop. If you got other podcasts to listen to, they're probably not as good. Insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
We are better than murder podcasts. We are better than Conan O'Brien.
That is true.
We are better than the Good Enough podcast. Three young gentlemen.
We're even with that one. I don't want to go too extreme.
Too extreme. Jackson, actually, we should probably not welcome people to this episode of Parental Guidance Neglected. We should welcome them to the 50th episode of the PGN podcast. We did it, the penultimate. I remember we said if we just make it to 50,
then success. Jackson, put in a round of applause in the background.
It's a success. Boy, the Patreon page has just been blowing up. The funds are rolling
great,
in,
folks.
We're proud to announce 17 new sponsors this week. So we'll be breaking for commercials all the time. Every movie review will be brought to you by a company. We'll be doing the FedEx Dream Scenario review tonight.
It's got to the point where the studios are paying us to do reviews of their movies. So
Minute Maid Orange Juice Zone of Interest review. So we're just gonna work corporate sponsors into every single thing we do. Jackson, welcome home.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here. Back broke into the old apartment, as some would say.
Yeah, I talked to you about this a little bit in person when we pass each other in the hallways. It's tough, right? It's tough going from 60 miles per hour at school with finals and film projects and your friends and your gal and everyone, and then suddenly you're back in your old bedroom and you're like, video games, and does anyone need anything from Trader Joe's? Because I need to get out of the house.
It's not so bad this time, though. This is a shorter break.
It's the summer.
I got the winter class to take, so.
Yeah, the summers are the hard ones, I know.
Yeah.
But you were pretty busy this summer. It started rough, but then you ended up with a few gigs at the end. Yeah. So, it got you going. So, it's our 50th episode, and we're excited to keep doing this. I always tell people this is really just an excuse for me to talk to my son once in a while, especially when he's at school. And Jackson, film student as it is, always wants to just have an outlet to either complain about the latest superhero movie or tell us about a Japanese film that we're never, ever going to see.
You guys got to see it.
You got to see it. So for those of you who are listening and have been listening continuously, all 7 of you, thank you for your support. Spread the word. And make sure you've liked and given us 5 stars and all that on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're listening or watching. Our 50th episode, it's the middle of what we call the award season push. The award shows haven't really started yet, but it's the end of the year. End of the year when they're being cranked out. And Jackson and I did see a few films this week. We got reviews of Nicolas Cage in Dream Scenario coming up. I shouldn't say silent, but a slow burner of a Oscar contender that's kind of sneaking up their zone of interest, that's gaining some traction. We both went out together and saw a movie finally, and saw the Godzilla Minus One, which Jackson had to explain to me why it was called Minus One, and it's a pretty good theory. I don't know if it's right.
I mean, it was my theory.
We'll
talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah, it's a good theory. And then Jackson decided instead of sitting down with me and watching Wonka last night, he would rather shove bamboo under his fingernails with some of his old high school buddies. He just did not want to watch Wonka. So I will have a review of that coming up for you as well. So we got all those movies.
I've got a bunch of stuff to talk. I watched a bunch of newer movies too that you've already talked about in the past. So we can.
Oh yeah, we're getting to that in just a second. Also, stick around at the very end of the show. We promised our geeks we would bring you something. We looked back on the Marvel catalog thus far, seeing as how the Marvels, which neither one of us saw, just came out, tanked, and was critically panned. And maybe would have made this list, but neither one of us went. I started thinking, maybe is now a time to assess the good and the bad of the Marvel universe for our geekdom fans out there before we enter this next phase that appears to be in trouble. And we'll talk
good for
we'll talk
Marvel
about,
or DC.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. But first, we're going to catch up with Jackson. This is what I like to call Jackson's pretentious art house film corner plus catch-ups. Jackson's got to see a couple movies that I reviewed in past episodes, and of course snuck in a few films that I've never heard of in my entire life, but yet he claims they're the most critically acclaimed movies of all time. You know how it works. So without further ado, Mr. Burns, welcome to your art house corner. What did you see?
Yeah, I saw I've seen a movie every day so far since being on break. I had a lot of catching up to do, so I've got a bunch to get through. I'll start with the newer ones that I saw that you didn't get a chance to.
Okay.
Went in theaters to go see The Boy and the Heron. It's the new anime film coming out of Studio Ghibli, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, of course known for Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro and all the big hitters. This was a good movie. I don't know if I liked it as much as I was hoping. I definitely by the end I understood what it was going for, but it was the kind of thing where it took so many twists and turns to kind of get to its final point that I kind of got lost with it. With that being said, the animation's beautiful. Really surprising voice work from Robert Pattinson, who plays like this crotchety old bird.
Is he the heron?
He's the heron, and you would never guess.
Is he the
never
only?
in a million years guess it was him.
Is he the only American actor in the film?
The theater we went to was showing the dubbed version. They weren't showing the sub version, so it was all American actors. But it's a pretty packed for the American version. It was like Florence Pugh was in it. I know Christian Bale was in it. He's done a bunch of the Ghibli movies. Willem Dafoe. So it was good voice work, great visuals, a decent story. I'm gonna go with a 7. I did enjoy it, but it just wasn't
7.
as good as some of his other stuff.
Wait a minute. Is this a cartoon? Is this a cartoon movie?
Guys, episode 50, it's going to be our last show of the year.
Wait a minute, a cartoon?
Yeah, whatever.
I actually said I would maybe go see this until you told me you didn't think I would like it. So
I think that it's a really weird starting place if you haven't seen any other Studio Ghibli movies. Because it's not their best showing. I'm worried that you're going to see that and it's going to turn you off from the rest of them. I mean, if you want to go see it, go see it. It is very pretty. The voice acting's great. I'll leave that one up to you. I'm not gonna throw my hat in that ring. Right. Another one I saw, a straight to streamer coming from Sam. I think it's Sam Esmail. The creator and director of a lot of the Mr. Robot episodes. Has got a new feature out with Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, and Ethan Hawke. Leave the World Behind.
This is a Netflix movie. This is straight to Netflix, right?
Yeah, this is a straight to Netflix movie. It's a Armageddon Day type scenario. I almost like Don't Look Up if it was more serious.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Before you get into it, I've heard about this movie, and it seems to be a very polarizing film. Like, I've heard people who loved it and people who hated it. I'm not hearing a lot of middle ground. Are you in the middle, or did you swing one way or the other?
This was pretty disappointing. This was pretty bad. This was pretty not my thing. There's a lot of issues with this movie. I think that, for one, it's incredibly on the nose, and you can see where it's going from the second that it starts. Another thing that I don't know what anyone on this set was thinking, but the camera movements in this movie are so distracting and nauseating and inconsistent. Any kind of camera trick you can think of, they threw it in there, and in a way that didn't make it consistent. Because there's style, right? I mean, in fact, we watched a very stylized movie that we'll talk about later, Zone of Interest, but it was style that was consistent. This was like, what if the camera did a flip and then we're upside down, and this shot's going to be a split diopter, and it was like every toy in the book, and it was so distracting. Mahershala Ali, by the way, is phenomenal in this, and it just makes it so much harder to watch because he is so good, and I really did feel like Ethan Hawke was phoning it in a bit. He's kind of doing his Ethan Hawke thing, and I think Ethan Hawke's a great actor, but he's kind of playing the same character that he does a lot of times.
What's the chemistry like between Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke? That's a weird pairing
really
to me.
Horrible.
Yeah,
it's really horrible.
That's a weird pairing.
The biggest problem, too, is that I think that this film, the dialogue is written in a really poor way where every woman is just the worst character. I just, not standable in any capacity. I wasn't rooting for anyone with the exception of maybe Ethan Hawke and Mahershala Ali. The kids were annoying. I thought, not the best performances. Kevin Bacon's in it for like 5 minutes. That was interesting.
Okay.
Overall, really disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. This is a tough one to get through.
This is a sci-fi movie or a
it's more
dystopian film or
I don't want to give too much away because it is kind of like a what's happening. Like it's very much like we have to figure out what's going on with the world.
Okay.
But it has to do with like a big hack happening across America.
Okay.
Over the course of like a couple goes to an Airbnb, and while they're there, things go to crap, and the homeowners end up coming home.
Gotcha.
It felt like the worst parts of a lot of really great movies thrown into one. That's the best way I can put it. It's like Get Us and a little bit of Don't Look Up and a little bit of a bunch of other things.
Can you see why it didn't get a theatrical release? And
yes.
It's very odd for a Julia Roberts project not to go to the theaters. So
yeah, I mean,
maybe that's
it was definitely upsetting seeing these very talented people kind of come into something that didn't hit at all for me, to be honest.
What are you gonna?
I'm gonna give this a 2.
Ooh, that's only one better than Saltburn.
This is pretty rough.
It's only one better, rough. one notch better than Saltburn. And we all know how you felt about that. Well, speaking of another Netflix movie that got a slight theatrical release, but was basically Netflix that I reviewed last week was May December. I know you sat down with that one as well. What'd you think?
I did. I have a lot to say about this one, actually. Oh. I really enjoyed this movie. Mm-hmm. I'll come out and say that first of all. I thought that obviously Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore were incredible, but the guy who really stole the show out of nowhere, Charles Melton.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I told you.
Honestly,
he was really good.
In my opinion, the best performance of the whole film. I mean, he is so good at encapsulating, like, God. I mean,
he did get a Golden Globe nomination.
It's hard watching him.
Yeah.
I think very deserved. I think this is definitely for him a breakout role, and I'm glad that he was able to find something like this after doing.
Now, I very much enjoyed the film. I gave it a very solid B. I couldn't quite go to the A, and I also mentioned that my biggest pet peeve with this movie, and one of the main reasons I didn't give it an A, is the score. Absolutely.
I could not agree more.
Hated the score. I thought
I could not agree more.
Oh, it got in the way of the actors. It got in the way of the story. It took you completely out of it. It was like Todd Haynes went, "Okay, everyone stop and look at me." I just could not stand that sudden bombastic orchestration.
It felt like a Twin Peaks song almost.
Yeah,
because it has that weird like soap opera-y feel, which is really strange because it's a very real depiction of trauma and grooming. Another thing, I you know what, and this is me being nitpicky. I really wasn't a big fan of the look of this film, like the aesthetic in general with the score and the cinematography.
Yeah, the
color grading wasn't for me. It felt very bland. Yeah, I'm getting really sick of people doing film emulation. If you're gonna shoot on digital, just commit. I'm getting tired of it.
Right.
But that's just me being nitpicky. I feel like we were pretty much in agreement on this. I'm going to give May December a 7.
Yeah, 7. Really good performance.
What do you think of the ending, actually?
I loved it. I think it's one of the best endings to a film this year. I thought it was smart, and it was a movie that I was kind of teetering on a little bit, and I thought, Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you'll appreciate the ending as much if you don't work in the industry and haven't been on a set and understand everything about going back to one and how many times these takes can be done. And they may if you have a really good movie, it comes across so organic in the moment, but you just don't know how many times they've done it. And no, I love the ending. I loved all three of the lead performances. I like the script. I agree. The directing was kind of bland, and the score really kept it from being, I think, a much better film than it could have been. So,
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I also enjoyed the ending.
Yeah. Speaking of other films that I reviewed last week, I also gave a very solid B to the Golden Globe nominated movie The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti. I gave it a solid B. It's the same that I gave to May December. Jackson finally curled up. And what were your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, this was an interesting one for a few reasons. The first is I've been hearing a lot about people raving about Dominic Sessa in this as like this big breakout performance. I really wasn't blown away. I really wasn't.
I wasn't
especially
either.
Next to the likes of Paul Giamatti, who is fantastic in this.
I think
in my opinion, one of the best castings of the year.
Yeah, I cannot
one of the
agree
best
more.
castings of the year.
He was, I thought, the weakest link of the film.
I agree. I agree, which is hard because he's kind of the centerpiece, with the exception of Paul. It's those two are really the heart of this film. You know what? I don't know if this one was exactly for me. I felt very down the middle on this.
I told you I didn't think it was going to be. It's a kind of a sweet movie.
Yeah.
Do you see where I mean? Like kind of Son of a Woman, Green Book, kind of a road trippy.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that the ending was a little too. I don't know. The ending took me out a little bit. Yeah. There were some funny jokes, but I think overall it was a lot of just me being like, all right, that's an interesting situation that they're in.
Yeah.
This is going to be a theme for today. Please stop shooting on digital and pretending like you shot on film. This movie wants you to think it was shot on 16mm so bad, and it's not. Please stop doing that. It's so obvious to me. Every time I'm sucked out.
How do you know? What's the giveaway? Because I can't tell. It's skin tone?
It's always the skin tones.
Oh, okay.
It's always the secrets in the skin tones.
Well, now, here's the thing, Jackson. Maybe that's going to be the wave of the future. Is everyone's going to shoot digital but transform it to look like film? And what if that's the way?
It might be, but if I can tell, then it's going to take me out of it a little bit.
Right.
And granted, there are some movies that have great film emulation. I think that Midsommar is great for that. I think that The Green Knight did a great job of that. And now I just lost half our audience because I'm talking about film emulation. So, I don't know. This is just a me opinion. I wish for a movie that was banking so hard on the aesthetic of like an old-timey, like shot on like film, auteur film.
Yeah.
Just take out the helicopter scene and put a little more of your money into shooting on film. It wouldn't have been that much more expensive.
Hey guys, listen. Some podcasts are going to break down Fast and the Furious and where it's and where the saga is going. Here at PGN Podcast, we're going to talk color correction and film skin tones and film transition from digital. I mean, you're going to get everything that you want. I mean, it's the kind of topics that's really going to put us above.
No, but yeah, this is what's putting us on the map.
It'll put us above Rogan, no doubt about it. What are you giving?
Agreed.
What are you giving the Holdovers, Jackson?
Holdovers gets a 5. Just down the middle for me.
Okay, it's about where I thought you would be on it. Again, I said I think the sweetness of it and Paul Giamatti's performance took it from a C to a B to a C for me.
That's fair.
Because I just think he can do no wrong. So I think he
is great. And that one line you were talking about last week was hilarious.
Yeah,
I did laugh very hard at that. The one line from the end. It
just came out of nowhere.
Nowhere.
His delivery on it is 100%. You need to watch. He burst onto the scene in Howard Stern's movie Private Parts as a radio corporate guy. And you should watch that sometime. That movie is worth seeing just for Paul Giamatti. You will laugh your ass off at him in that film. So put that one on your short list. Jackson, you also curled up with a couple other older films, artsy films. What were those?
I did. Just two for this week. I'll start off with the lesser known. I watched a French film called Beau Travail, which I believe means good job in French. I've heard a lot of good things about this. It's directed by a woman named Claire Denis. who have also heard a lot of great things about. I really wanted to like this more than I did, and I did enjoy it, but I don't know if this hit for me off of a first watch. This might be the kind of thing I'd have to watch multiple times. Very, very slow burn, following a Foreign Legion officer, like a French officer who's stationed in what's the name of the country that the French were in for forever? You know what I'm talking about? Algeria. Stationed in Algeria. It's very much like a study on masculinity and men and how it affects relationships and stuff. Which was very interesting, and the cinematography was great. I thought the score was beautiful. The performances were fantastic. I just
don't care about French Foreign Legion.
It was very French. It was very French.
French.
In that it was pretty much no dialogue.
I don't care for French cinema. Even the best of the best French films, like Amélie, and they're fine, but it's just a little too French.
It's not my favorite either. It's very touch and go. I do love the 400 Blows, and that's a basic opinion. But I mean,
there's like one or two, and then after that, the list plummets pretty fast.
Yeah, I think that if you're interested in French films, definitely check this out. I'm gonna give it a 7. I still did enjoy this a lot, but it's just I'm only harping on it because this is like. Everyone that has seen this movie for me has been like, this is one of the best films ever made. And I don't think that it lived up to that.
Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype, as we will be discussing about a few other films later on.
That's what I'll say. My next one, kind of an unconventional pick for me, but my two buddies, Jackson and Lucas, have been raving about this movie.
I was really shocked to see you watch this. I was shocked to see you curl up.
Yeah. My friend's like, please, I'll lend you the DVD. Like, just watch this movie. It's all that jazz. Directed by Bob Fosse.
Okay, now this stars Roy Schneider, who has passed, who most people know as Chief Brody from Jaws and Blue Thunder. It was directed by Bob Fosse, correct? The film.
Yes, correct.
And I think it's based somewhat on him.
Very incredibly autobiographical.
Yeah.
Very much like. Looking into his own self,
and I know
someone said it right, but it was like,
I'll look it up. I know it was nominated for some Oscars. I'm trying to remember if it won any, but go on, I'll look it up.
Someone said that like this, Bob Fosse hated himself so much that he made a movie about it. And that is very much what this movie is. Listen, I can't lie and say that I love the music numbers in this. I'm not. I mean, people watching the podcast know I'm not a big fan of musicals. It's just a stylistic choice that I'm not usually a fan of. This was pretty goddamn amazing. This blew me away though. Again, I'm gonna be taking some points off just because there was a lot of moments where I was like, I just really wish I wasn't watching people dance and sing right now. With that being said, I think that this was an incredibly genius film. Very, very introspective in such a stylistically and gorgeous way. The ending of this movie is one of the best like stylistic choices I've ever seen. This was surprisingly, I liked it more than I thought I would.
All right, well, a couple things. It did win 4 Oscars. It won for Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Editing, and Best Music for Original Song and Score. It was also nominated but did not win Best Picture, Best Actor for Roy Scheider, Best Director Bob Fosse, Best Screenplay, and Best Cinematography. So I mean, it was a big film at the time. So Jackson, we know you're not fans of musicals. Is this the best musical you've ever seen?
Yes. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Well, it's I wouldn't even call it a musical because there are music numbers take place, but they make sense because it's about a guy who's directing a musical.
Yes.
There's only one big music number at the end that's kind of like in his own head, but for the most, it's not like they're just like, we're doing the dishes, and it's none of that shit where you're just like, oh my god, can we just get on with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Roy Schneider was great. I'm shocked that he wasn't nominated. Or did you say he was nominated?
He was.
He should have been nominated.
He was nominated. Did not win. That was 1970. 1980. It came out in 79. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's ask Siri. Hey Siri. Who won the Oscar for Best Actor in 1980? Let's see who beat him. Hey Siri. Siri is the bit.
Guys, let's watch my dad try to figure out how to use his phone.
Hey Siri, who won the Oscar for Best Actor in 1980?
Robert De Niro, with his 4th nomination and 2nd Oscar when finally won his first Best Actor Oscar in his 4th film with director Martin Scorsese.
Raging Bull.
This is from
Oh,
film.
all right. So then there's no chance. There was no
Yeah,
chance.
yeah.
But
a film that you still have not seen, for crying out loud. So
I'm waiting to see it in theaters.
Oh my God, my son.
I know. But yeah. Anyways, you know what? I'm gonna recommend this film to anyone who's a fan of Charlie Kaufman. If you have never seen a Bob Fosse movie, but you like Charlie Kaufman, I think this is a really good film for you to see. It was very Schenectady, New York-y, and very him.
I'm feeling like the next time we play Love It As Much As I Love It, I need to pick a musical that I love.
That's not. That doesn't happen.
What do you mean? You don't get to decide. I get to pick what I want to pick.
No, you're right. I don't get to decide, but that you're fighting against your own best interest, I think, by doing that.
Really?
It's just a little
Maybe
bit.
you haven't seen enough musicals, though. Like you're so anti-musical that maybe you're avoiding some musicals that might actually affect you.
That's very true, but the fact that I took as many points off this movie as I did just because of the musical numbers, I think is a little bit concerning.
I think I have a musical that you will love.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to give All That Jazz an 8.
An 8.
But
okay.
I do want to hear what. What's the musical that you think?
I don't know. I think I want to spring it on you. I think I might save it. I might save it.
I take it back. All That Jazz 2. Moving on.
Okay. Here's the deal. I don't know if the next time we play Love It Like I Love It, I will pick this movie, but if I do, I'll think about it. It's definitely going to be this one, and it's definitely
all right.
It is
and I hope you're excited for your French movie.
And I think it's but here's the thing. The one I'm thinking of is kind of a musical. It's not a musical in the sense of he's doing the dishes and cooking the steak. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right.
There you have it.
I'll keep an open mind. I did keep an open mind for this, and it still kind of took me out of it. But
okay. It's good. I'm going to pick that one next time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to now.
Okay, no, listen. We all got to expand our tastes.
All right. Next week, we will come back with Love It Like I Love It. So, Jackson, you got 7 days to think of a movie that you're going to force me to watch, but that you think I could love, because I think you might actually really love this film. Okay. So, all right.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, we'll bring that back next week. It's the PGN podcast. Parental guidance is neglected. My now legal son and I, 2 generations, talking movies. My son can go out and buy weed and beer and Quaaludes and whatever else they're selling out there.
Quaaludes.
Is that legal now? Am I showing?
I think those are extinct.
Are they?
I don't think those are around anymore.
That's my generation thing. We did get out to the movies this week. You know what? We'll start with the one that Jackson and I did not see together that I watched last night, because, to be honest with you, I don't know how much time I want to invest in this. Jackson snuck out of the house last night as the rest of the family curled up for the new Timothée Chalamet Oscar season bait Christmas holiday family extravaganza, Wonka. This is directed by Paul King, who is most famous for doing those Paddington movies, which, to be honest with you, I have not seen, but people love those Paddington movies. Like, even people
I've heard nothing, but I haven't either. But I've heard that people be like, "Oh my god, you have got to see Paddington."
I know, and then everyone's like, Paddington's good, but Paddington 2, unbelievably good. And I'm like, I don't quite get it, but maybe they are, maybe they're not. It also stars Olivia Colman, Oscar winner for The Favorite. Yeah, she's in it.
Wow, they dragged Olivia Colman into this.
Keegan-Michael Key is in it as well. Not to give away too much, but he ends up in kind of fat suit makeup, and I felt kind of sorry for him at the point.
Okay, time out.
Yeah,
real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just guess before you even say anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say you gave this a D-. That's my opinion, but I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Oh, really?
Set a precedent.
Oh, okay. Jackson, it is a musical, which I think was the first thing that you were not aware of when you thought you were going to go see this last week at your. Jack was like, if you heard last week's episode, he's like, I'm going to go see Wonka tomorrow night. They're screening it at my school, and I was like, okay. And then he didn't make it for whatever reason. And then he thought about watching it last night, and we're like, it's a musical, and he went, what? And he's immediately on the phone with all of his friends going, is anyone doing anything tonight?
Yeah, what's going on?
Timothée Chalamet takes on the role. This is a prequel. This is a young Wonka, an orphaned Wonka. We find out he is an orphan who's coming to whatever city it's supposed to be in London. They don't really specify, and wants to duke it out with the local chocolatiers with his extravagant, magical chocolate concoctions. Hugh Grant also, if you've seen the ads or heard anything, plays the one singular Oompa Loompa in this. But there is a teaser that there's more Oompa Loompas out there. Well, we know there has to be because eventually he has a factory full of them. This is mostly original songs. The only song that they bring back is for the finale, and that's the most popular one that Gene Wilder sang when the kids were first introduced, Pure Imagination. And as much as Timothée Chalamet is trying here, he is not a fantastic singer. He is certainly not a fantastic dancer. And this is not the right performance or role for him. He was nominated for a Golden Globe, even though the movie was snubbed in the musical comedy field. And I can see why. Jackson, you'll be pleased to hear this. You've almost hit it right on the head. Wonka is one of the worst films of the year. Some people really have enjoyed this. They find it sweet. They love the new music. The story is so convoluted. It involves a contract that he signs to a laundromat where he's imprisoned by Olivia Colman and a large brute, and he's in there with a washed-up stand-up comic and a phone operator and a tailor. It is the most confusing thing. And at one point, I just wanted to look across at the family watching this with me and go, is any of this ever going to really be about chocolate? The songs are not memorable. They sound really, really predictably rote and have no nuance.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, in a few weeks, we're going to be doing our top 10 best movies of the year and our top 10 not best movies of the year, because I try not to use the W word when I can, and I remember. Yeah. There's a very, very strong chance this movie will be on that list. I didn't laugh once, and I didn't smile remotely. Wonka gets an F.
Wow.
An F for me.
All right.
I
almost went there.
One of the not best films of the year.
Freudian slip there.
Yeah. One of the.
Okay, if you had to recast someone as Wonka, is there anyone you would have in mind? I feel like they would do a pretty good young Willy Wonka.
20 years ago, I would have said Crispin Glover. I think there has to be something.
He would have been great.
I think there has to be something off about Wonka. I think that was the great thing about Wilder. He was so. We've talked about that meme where people don't understand that when you watch Willy Wonka, we always thought there was a chance that he was going to let one of those kids die. There has to be a darker undertone to Wonka. A man who.
That's why this probably isn't the right person, but maybe even a Barry Keoghan type of just someone who can do a really good person that's cool, but something's going on.
Yeah, Barry Keoghan is somebody that you just would expect to be an introvert. If you see the original Willy Wonka, there's a story about no one has seen him in 20 years. He won't come into the sunlight. He won't. There's something off about this guy. Timothée Chalamet is just a happy-go-lucky. Have a chocolate.
Chocolatier.
Have a chocolate.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it that says why would he isolate himself in this factory for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just completely off the rails. I was trying to think if there's someone really young and, God, be honest with you, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf would probably do
that too, actually.
He would probably do something crazy and quirky, and you need an actor who's going to go a little off the mainstream. But please, people, at all costs, avoid Wonka. It is not fun.
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough review.
Yeah. But Jackson and I, we finally get down to it here at the PGN podcast. 3 films, all 3 of which we watched together. We went and saw one of these at the Directors Guild. We watched one of them at our local AMC, and we watched a streamer here at our house. So we had the at-home, we had the industry screening, and then we had the basic sit next to the guy with the popcorn screening. Jackson, which one do you want to start with?
I don't know.
Well, let's start at home. We were at home, and
okay, let's do that.
Okay, let's be honest. Jackson watched Dream Scenario, the new surreal comedy starring Nicolas Cage, about a man who is suddenly and for no reason infiltrating people's dreams. He's just showing up in their dreams, not doing anything, just kind of observant and watching whatever they're dreaming about. But the film eventually takes a darker turn when he starts ingratiating himself into these dreams, and for whatever reason, those dreams become nightmares, where he's usually the cause of that, whether it be murdering them, chasing them, drowning them, or kidnapping them. Doesn't matter. We watched this, and I won't lie, I did fall asleep in about 20 minutes into the movie. I'd had a very very long day. So Jackson watched it to completion. I did finish the film the next day on my own, but I know sometimes that can kind of change the way you see a movie if you're seeing it in bits and pieces. It's not my favorite way to do it. I'm doing Killers of the Flower Moon like that right now, and I don't like doing it like that, but it's just the way it is. Whether or not that shaded my thoughts of the movie, I don't know. Jackson, what are your thoughts on the surreal new movie by first-time writer-director Christopher... Well, I shouldn't say first time. This is his first big feature, Christopher Borgli, Dream Scenario.
Yeah, this is... Nicolas Cage is so interesting because the bad thing about him is he will do any role for money.
Yeah.
But the great thing about him is that he will do any role for money.
He gets to play a lot of different things.
God, he's everywhere. And I think that he was incredible in this. I loved Nicolas Cage in this movie.
I agree.
He made me laugh. He made me emotional.
Yeah.
The whole range of emotions he had me feeling during the entirety of this film.
I have to look back, but I think it's one of the best performances of the year. And I
agree completely.
I said last week that I thought Mark Ruffalo had given the best comedic performance of the year, and I still stand by that. He is fantastic in Poor Things. But I think after seeing Dream Scenario, I think I would give the slight edge to Nick Cage on this one.
Yeah, it just felt like they let him do like free range weird stuff in people's dreams, and I thought that was just so great.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I really did. It made me really interested in what other stuff the director has done. I'm hoping that this movie causes him to get some more work in the future, some more big names in his films, hopefully. But I enjoyed this thoroughly. I thought it was a really interesting concept. I thought that here and there it might have lost its way a little bit, but overall I was with the movie the whole time. I thought the ending was gorgeous. I really enjoyed this.
With the fire. Yeah. And?
Shot on film.
And it was shot on film. Well, look at you.
And it was shot on film. So overall, this is a huge win. I really did love this movie. I thought everything about it made me laugh and made me smile and made me cry. It was great.
Yeah. I was trying to look up Christopher Borgli, the director, who really has done like a little bit here and there, but he did a short film called Willem Dafoe. I have no idea if Willem Dafoe has seen it. I just remember screaming.
So awesome.
He has a film called Willem Dafoe. I thought Julianne Nicholson was pretty good in this as well. She plays the wife of the college professor. Tim Meadows from Saturday Night Live, who has never really gotten a chance to stretch his wings very well. I thought had really good dry performance as his boss at the university. Who takes him in when he's kicked out. And Dylan Baker is in this as well, who's one of my favorite character actors of all time. He's still in one of my favorite movies of all time called Happiness that you have to see, Jackson, especially if you're a Philip Seymour Hoffman fan.
It's been on my list for so long, yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely adore Happiness. I agree with you, Jackson. I think the film does meander a little bit. I thought the thing with the influencers, while I kind of smiled at it and I got the humor of it, it felt a little bit of a different movie to me. And then when we got into the gadgets of getting into dreams, I thought, well, I don't know if this is... But I understand why you had to get to that if you got to the ending.
Cousin Greg cameo. Yeah.
Yeah, the Cousin Greg. It was funny, but I also it took me out just a little bit. But boy,
by the way, all real influencers. Like I recognize some of those people.
Oh, was it really?
I thought that was funny. Yeah, they were all real social media people.
That's very funny. Yeah, this is the kind of thing where I do recommend this movie highly, but I recommend it for Nicolas Cage. I don't usually do this with grades, but I'm going to split it on this one. I'm giving the movie Dream Scenario a B, a very solid B. I'm giving Nick Cage's performance an A.
Yeah, I'm gonna do an 8 out of 10 on this one.
Okay, yeah,
8 out of 10 for Dream Scenario. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend.
But with a caveat, much like Poor Things, I think this is a movie that you have to understand is going to be different. So
yeah, agreed.
Going in, if you're kind of your basic movie goer who's like, your favorite film of last year was, I don't know, Shrek. It's different. It's
Which
different.
Came out like I was born.
Yeah, I don't know why I came up with that one. Okay, Dream Scenario, highly recommended. Jackson and I went to the theaters yesterday. We had a couple hours, and I was falling asleep on the couch, and I said, you know what, I can't go to bed this early, so why don't we go see a movie, and I'll try not to fall asleep in a theater, and I didn't. But I'm not saying whether. But I'm not saying it's because the movie was great or bad. I'll save that for a second from now. We went and saw Godzilla Minus One. This is a Japanese movie written and directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who has been working very long in Japan and has done nothing else that I have ever heard of. It stars someone named, I'll take a shot at it, Ryunosuke Kamiki, who, again, not familiar with anything, except I did notice he did do one of the voices in Spirited Away. So. Oh,
yeah, and it looks like he does a lot of voice work for the Studio Ghibli stuff, a lot of anime. Your Name, things like that.
He plays a kamikaze pilot who we find out pretty early on is coming back from the Pearl Harbor mission and did not fly his plane into one of the battleships and claims that he had damage to his plane. And we soon learn, in fact, he turned back and was scared and did not give his life for the cause. This is a really interesting take on a Godzilla movie in that you can feel that it is a drama about a young man and the family that he inherits and the shame of his performance as a soldier and his travails into manhood happen to be interjected with Godzilla storming through the city. There's a lot of parallels here to post-World War II Japan and how they dealt with, obviously, there's always been undertones in every single Godzilla movie about radiation and the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And this film does just as much with that as well. It is a movie I really wanted to like. I'm not sure I was completely on board with it, though. Jackson?
Yeah, so here's my thing. I really enjoyed this I enjoyed parts of this for a lot of different reasons. I think that I'm really happy to see a return to like Godzilla's roots as being like a metaphor for the bombs that were dropped on Japan. Yes. It was also interesting to see this after us recently watching Shin Godzilla, which was another recent Japanese-made Godzilla film, which took a very different route of like the politics and the bureaucracy of what happened if Godzilla were to come back today. I enjoyed the performances in this a lot, especially from the scientist. Really?
I like the scientist. I wasn't crazy about the leads. I thought he was a bit melodramatic. I thought the woman was a bit melodramatic, and I even thought the guys on the boat were, except for the scientist, were a bit caricature.
That's fine. That's fair.
But
I will tell you that it worked.
I'll tell you this while I'm thinking about it. This guy was massively influenced by Steven Spielberg's Jaws. There is a half-hour sequence of this where they are on a tiny boat. They are being chased by Godzilla.
I didn't even think about that. That's so funny.
He steals literally the camera angles and the shots on this small boat with this crew of four guys. rings so much like Jaws. My God, they even had there's a bomb in his mouth, shoot the thing. So, I mean, that's literally how Jaws ends, and how they kill the shark is by shooting a bomb in its mouth, an air tank in its mouth. But if you go back and watch that, some of the shots were, we can call them a tribute, but I was like, that, I bet if you put those screenshots up against Jaws, you're like, that's Jaws. So you could really see the American influence on a lot of the films, especially the very first action sequence feels very Jurassic Park. The one in the water midway feels incredibly Jaws.
Very Spielberg.
And then the one at the end feels very... the whole military, the battleships, and it feels like, I don't know, something Peter Jackson would do with like those fighting robot movies or something. So I felt the American influence, at least through the monster scenes.
Agreed. I also thought that there is a very interesting sequence where the sound cuts out. I thought that was very effective, and it also made me think back to Oppenheimer and made me wonder if that was a choice made after that movie had come out as almost like a parallel in a way. With that being said, the thing that I had loved this movie for up until the very end was that there were stakes. It was like real, like this is a character-driven film. I'm so sick of the Godzilla movies that we've been making in the U.S. here lately, because it's just like, what if like the kids are in charge for some reason of these massive military operations? There's no character. It's all like, wait, but what if King Kong is actually our friend? It's like, no, this monster is going to kill us all, and we need to band together. I like that a lot. And then it just kind of crumbled in the end and turned into another... And I understand that maybe that was a studio choice. I'm hoping that it was, because there was such a opportunity here to make something that could have just stood on its own as a Japanese wartime piece.
Yeah.
And it couldn't stick the landing.
It got in its own way. It was a very predictable ending. I had to bite my lip not to lean over to Jackson when it came to a certain device that I knew was going to be in a plane that would change the course of the ending. I knew when telegrams came what they stated. And they really tied this thing up in a bow that just made you feel like they copped out. And I would love to know if his original script was always written that way. And, listen, as much as this movie is inspired by Hollywood, and steals a lot, but pays homage to a lot of Hollywood. Maybe he said it has to have a Hollywood ending. I don't know, but
I don't know either.
But the last third of the film is completely different in tone than the first, where it's really this journey of this man, and just the atrocities of the bombs being dropped on the cities. Boy, I wanted to like this. The effects are fine. They've obviously come a long way since him stomping on toy villages, but Godzilla Minus One gets a C- for me.
I think I like this a little more than you did. I still did enjoy my time in the theater. I thought this was great. Maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if I was at home seeing this on the couch, but something about seeing it on the big screen, I really did enjoy the effects. I thought the Godzilla was pretty terrifying. I like this rendition of it a lot. I'm going to go with a 6 on this one.
All right.
I don't think we're that... A swing and a sort of hit.
I don't think we're that far off. But... So and before anyone starts bitching about, well, you don't understand the parallels, and it's the drama they wrapped around. I get it. I got all of it. Okay, calm down. I'm just telling you. Just telling you.
Yeah.
It's
just what it is.
Wasn't the best acted movie. Wasn't the most unpredictable, and at the end, it just turned into a monster movie, and it looked like it was going to be more than that. In just a few minutes here at the PGN podcast, Jackson and I are going to count down our top 5 best Marvel movies and top 5 not best Marvel movies. Just because, why the hell not? Because we're talking so much art film stuff lately. But before we do, we have one more movie to review. Jackson and I headed off to the Directors Guild this week to see a film that has been now released. I think it's limited release, so you're going to have to hunt this one down. I'm not sure if or when it's opening wider. It probably will depend on whether or not you go see it after hearing this review. It is a foreign film called The Zone of Interest. It is a Golden Globe nominee for Best Foreign Film. Most people predict it will be for the Oscar as well. It's directed by Jonathan Glazer, who did one of my favorite films from 2000 called Sexy Beast with Ben Kingsley. I know Jackson's a fan of that as well, and he's pretty well known for a film called Under the Skin as well. It stars Sandra Huller, who is a Golden Globe nominee this year for her work in Anatomy of a Fall, and Christian Friedel, a very well-known German actor, but it really has not crossed over the sea over to us in anything that you would know, but has been working in Germany for quite some time. It tells us
he was in The White Ribbon. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it tells the story of a commander of Auschwitz named Rudolph and his wife Hedwig as they try to build a life and raise a family in a house and a garden, a lot of shots in the garden, outside of the infamous concentration camp. This is a very, very powerful film. There is so much going on camera sometimes when nothing appears to be happening. It is a movie that will play with your emotions. Who do you feel sympathetic for, and should you not? And when is someone a monster, and does a monster in fact have any heart, or can a monster love? That's just scratching the surface of some of the themes of A Zone of Interest. I have a lot more to say on it. Jackson, what are your initial thoughts? That's a dramatic pause. We have not lost sync.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try not to get emotional with this one, but this was get emotional talking about this. But this was probably one of the best movies I've ever seen. I'm gonna be real.
Wow.
I could not get over. I just think everything about this movie is perfect. I can't even. There's nothing else to talk about. Wow. I think this is the best shot movie of the year. I think this is the best score of the year, and that's saying a lot because I love the score of Oppenheimer, even though I know you didn't.
Yeah.
I think that this movie has one of the most powerful endings I've seen from a film in a long time.
Yeah.
I left the theater with such a pit in my chest. I just wanted to crawl into a hole. The performances are incredible. I mean, there are so many. Here's what's perfect about this movie is that it is the perfect combination of style that supports the story. Mm-hmm. Every shot, every stylistic choice to not move the camera, to keep it still, the things that it chose to show, the things it chose not to show, the things that you just hear in the background, even the stuff with the infrared, I thought that all of it made perfect sense in the context of the story, and not only that, but supported it in such a way that I came out of this movie just speechless.
Wow.
I really don't think there's much else I can say about it.
Well, I'm glad that you bring it up because as many great things about The Zone of Interest as there are, and I'm going to touch base on a few of them, without a doubt, 100%, the star of this entire project is the sound mixer. Because what he does so brilliantly, and the director in this film, is that we have this slice of life and family living just on the outskirts of the wall of Auschwitz. And sometimes the most daily mundane things are happening. A delivery from a baker. They might be putting out lawn chairs, or the Sandra Huller's character, Hedwig, might be showing her mother some azaleas that they're planting and hoping that will come up at winter. And while this is happening, you are hearing things in the far distance that could be nuanced sounds of nature. It could be a nuanced sound of somebody riding a bicycle. It could be the sound of a door slamming on a gas chamber in the last scream of a child going in. And I know that can sound a little pretentious or on the head, but it's not. It's so subtle that I sometimes was like, am I hearing? I mean, I hear them. I can tell that they're out. Yeah. They're out there. And then you start to say, are those characters hearing it? Are they drowning this out? Have they heard it that they become numb to it? Or do they hear it and they thrive on it? Sandra, they make a brilliant, brilliant choice of, we know that Rudolph, the commander, when he leaves every day and goes through the wall, and by the way, there's not one shot or scene in the concentration camp. It's all on the outsides. So we know what he sees and does when he goes inside. But for a large part of the movie, you start to ask yourself, does the wife truly know what's going on in there? do the kids understand exactly what dad is doing in there? And there is a scene, and I don't want to give it away, but about 2/3 through, where Sandra Huller's character says something to one of the housekeepers, who is a local Jewish girl that they are using pretty much as a slave. There is such a blunt, obvious distinction when she says what her husband is capable of doing that you go, it almost floored me, because I'm like, she might be more evil than him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's so many great, amazing things about this movie, the subtleties, the performance. I agree with you on the camera. There is a lot of dolly shot stuff, but it's almost always done in the garden. There's a lot of dolly pans in the garden. But
the only camera movement in this whole thing,
side to side.
Only very rare occasions to side to side. It's never up and down.
Yeah.
It's never back and forth. It's just here.
Right.
Every other shot is just static and just cutting between angles.
What is also fascinating is that I know the entire architecture of that house. I knew it by heart. But I mean, I knew every hallway. I knew every turn.
Yeah.
It's like, and then scenes would come back. The stairway to the front door was always the exact same shot, just lit differently, different time of day, different action. I mean, I felt like I knew the kitchen cubby with the 3 chairs where the women sat, and sometimes the slaves, and I call them slaves because they were preparing food. Such a brilliant film. I'm not going to lie to you, Jackson. I don't know if I was as crazy about the infrared stuff as you. There's
really? Yeah.
Yeah, there is kind of a moments involving a local Jewish girl who sneaks and plants fruit and food for some of the concentration camp people when they're going to be working in the fields or the train lines or whatever it is. And he makes a choice to shoot that in infrared. I don't know. I mean, I get it. But I don't know if I loved that as much as you did. But I get it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I get it.
Yeah. But the thing that makes this movie for me is the final moments in the hallway. That I just could not believe what I was seeing when that. I mean, I don't want to spoil this, but you know what I'm talking about.
When they cut away, yeah.
Oh, it was just, there was just something so. I don't know. So emotionally powerful about those cuts and the way they chose to do it and the music. The movie starts with a 2-minute long overture.
I did not care for that. I won't lie to you. I didn't care for that.
I love that.
I didn't care for
so
that.
Much.
I think you could have.
It was such a good tone.
I think you could have opened in the meadow with the family on the picnic, and I think I would have been just fine. And I do agree with you. The ending. Some people, I think, could call it a little manipulative to do the kind of flash forward. I'll just say that much. But just the fact him descending the staircase, I know there's going to be some parallels as him descending into hell. The fact that we're given a cough, and I think we all know what that cough eventually means. And I do love the fact that after we flash forward, we flash back, like almost to say, this is where we will end up, but this is where. And I think there's also that moment that as he's descending the staircase, hypothetically or figuratively, that we know, and he knows too. I think he also knows that there are several ends coming. I think at that point he knows that this is all going to end, and he's going to end at some point. So I don't know if it's my favorite film of the year, Jackson. I can guarantee you it's going to be up there. I certainly don't think it's the best film I've ever seen, but it really is just a masterclass. And boy, before you go, I've seen one too many Holocaust movies, or
this is totally different.
This is not a this is it's a Holocaust movie where it takes place during that, and you feel the power of it, but you're being shown an incredibly interesting and different perspective on it. I mean, I was just fascinated with the life of this family. I don't want to give away too much. I just love talking about it with you, Jackson, but it's done maybe one or two too many times. I remember the first time there's this entire shot of the family at a pool party, and there's kids over, and and then if you're just watching in the very background, you just see the smoke billowing.
They literally, I mean, just
billowing from the train
garden wall.
heading to
The
the
garden
camp.
that they're in is literally shares a wall with the camp. It's like that's
Yeah.
how close they are
Yeah.
in the context of the film. So,
But
yeah,
what a brilliant choice to see just the very tips of the billowing smoke from an incoming train that is filled with Jewish people on their way to their deaths.
the fishing. Oh, the fishing trip too.
Yeah.
That whole sequence was brilliant. I loved all the stuff they had. There's a very young child in it. They have a very young son, and there's a few moments of just him in his room that I really thought were really well done. I could talk about this movie for hours personally, but I don't want to bore our viewers. Go see this movie, please, for the life of God, see this movie.
Yeah, so I think that might change up Jackson's list for the year. Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's it's fresh in his mind. Let's let the dust settle. Sometimes you think of a film and then you go back and you think about it and you go, well, whatever. Jackson, what are you giving the Zone of Interest on a scale of 1 to 10?
As of right now, this is my first and only 10 out of 10 for this year.
Wow, first 10 of the year. The Zone of Interest is a fantastic movie. I do not give it an A+ because I'm not saying it's not worthy of it. I just have to say there's a few things that just take it down a peg. The infrared stuff I thought was a bit much. There is a quick scene where we cut away to that girl and her family, and I'm like, I get back to what I like. And and like I said, there's a couple visual elements that I think he might use just one too many times. Where it's like, okay, we got the billowing smoke, but I'm nitpicking on one of the best films of the year, and I'm giving it an A-. So, and I don't give out A's a lot.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take that for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think 2 out of 3 is not bad. I mean, Zone of Interest is a must-see. I think Dream Scenario is definitely one you should. Godzilla Minus One, I think, it's certainly worth your time if you're into that kind of thing. And then, by all means, stay away from Wonka. You've been warned.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's the PGN podcast. As I told you, next week, we will, Jackson's heading off to Texas with his gal pal and hang out, so I'm not going to put any pressure on him to see a lot next week, but maybe him and his girlfriend will curl up one night.
I'll try to see some before I leave, too. We got a few more days.
Yeah, he's got a few more, so we'll probably watch a few screeners. We still have got Napoleon, I guess, or
Ferrari, American Fiction.
American Fiction, and you know what? All of Us Strangers, I'm still hearing great things about with Paul Mescal, and so we will definitely try to get some in, and then maybe we'll throw up a podcast when he gets back right after the new year, before he gets back heavy into school. We promise you, though, this week, top 5 best Marvel movies of all time, and top 5 not best Marvel movies of all time. Let's do the best.
Bottom 5, some would say.
Bottom 5, yeah. They're all great, Jackson. It was so hard to pick 5 that I didn't like. Your 5?
I will say it was way more difficult for me to pick a bottom 5 because I think that you've seen a lot more of the recent ones.
Okay.
Whereas I haven't seen nearly as much as you have. So like anything from the newer stuff, I didn't see the new Doctor Strange or the newest Ant-Man or any of that. So.
I think our geeks would still be curious to hear what our takes are on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go with the top 5 best just to start them off. Number 5 for me, it's the OG, Jackson. I don't think they ever made a better Iron Man movie than they did the first one. Robert Downey Jr., it was just so exciting to see him playing a role. Before that, he was just the drug addict guy who did teen films. And suddenly here he was as Tony Stark, and it started it off, it blew it up, and I won't say I remember seeing it going, wow, the superhero landscape has changed, but they have not been able to do a better solo movie with him since then. That's my number 5. What's yours?
Yeah, that
thoughts
one
thoughts
didn't
on
make my list, but it was very close. That would have been like a top 10. That would have made it.
Okay.
My number 5 is a very recent pick. This is why I asked you if we're allowed to pick technically non-MCU films. The reason this isn't higher is because it is a part 1 of 2, and the second part has not come out yet. But something about the animation style and the music and the characters, especially the characters, because the characters are what just in case you guys are curious, characters are important to a story. I think some people might have lost that recently with some of the newer movies.
Yeah.
It's going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Now,
Yeah,
is that part 2 or part 1?
It's the second of the 2 movies that have come out so far.
The second of the 2, okay. Because the first one's called The Multiverse, and this one's Across the Universe, or I can't remember.
It's called Across the Spider-Verse. The first one's called Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. I got you. Now, you liked the second one better than the first. I liked the first one better than the second.
Well, I didn't say that. I just said that this
was that's right. No, I just gave something away there. Also, just to clarify, I'm sticking to just the Marvel movies. Jackson went ahead and leaked into the Marvel/Sony movies that they've kind of licensed together, so he is allowed to incorporate all those, and I have a feeling he will on some of the worst. It's just my gut feeling. All right. Looks like we might hear about Spider-Man again. In fact, you're going to hear about Spider-Man again right now for my number 4. And no, it's not into, across, or beyond, or underneath, or through, or over the top of the multiverse. My number 4 is, I think, the best entry in the Spider-Man franchise with Tom Holland, and that is the most recent one. That's No Way Home. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I thought they could have easily hit an iceberg on bringing back Tobey Maguire and Garfield as previous multi-dimensional Spider-Mans, but I think they did it brilliantly. It was so great to see them again. I even like bringing back all the villains, Willem Dafoe and the Green Goblin and Doc Ock and all of them. I thought it was the most fun of all of them, and to be honest with you, I've enjoyed pretty much all the Tom Holland movies, but I thought No Way Home is where they really kind of stretched their wings, tried something, took a dare, and number 4 on mine is Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, good pick. My number 4, I have a feeling this one, just knowing you, this one might come up later on your list. Mm-hmm. This is I think so far this is the earliest Marvel movie that we've talked. Maybe Iron Man, but this is definitely an earlier into the series. I don't know if they've gotten the action better than they did here. This is just a really, really solid action flick with really great characters, and I don't know. I love this movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember loving it a lot. And it's going to be Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah, not to be confused with the first Avenger. The first. This is the second one. Yeah, Blackwood is
Bucky Barnes comes back.
Yeah, Bucky's such a fantastic character. He and Redford gets. I mean, Redford's the villain in this, and I really think he was one of the better villains throughout the franchise so far. I don't get into the what's the big green guy with the Infinity Glove and the James
Thanos.
Brolin. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Okay, I'm not. I love a good actor like Chris Walken or Robert Redford, someone who just kind of relishes playing a nasty role. So excellent pick on that one, Jackson. Number 3 on my list. I had to pick one of the Avengers movies to be on here, and I picked Infinity War. Now, a lot of people say it's Endgame because they love when they all come together and Avengers unite or assemble or whatever they say, and we get to see all those multitude of 8 million people fighting Thanos and finally getting victory. But I'm telling you, the one that had the emotional impact, I think, was the predecessor, which had the snap in which half of the world died. And even though we all knew they were all going to come back because that's the way superhero movies work, it really did have an emotional punch to see Spider-Man die in Iron Man's arms. And I remember enjoying that one immensely, and then not being let down by Endgame, but just feeling like, well done sticking the landing. But I think of all the Avengers movies, the Avenger films, Infinity War was one of the best.
Yeah. My number 3 is... I'm worried we're getting a little too redundant here, but you said it best. This is going to be the best Tom Holland film from that he's put out. I think I definitely agree with you. They took a risk, especially with the ending of this film. I thought was very well done and could have gone way worse. This is one of the best theater experiences I've ever had in my life. I mean, I was in a packed premiere at the Chinese theater full of a bunch of nerds.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh my god, it was electric, and it was just so nice. It was one of the first big movies that had come out since movies had been back, and it was just it was really it was a treat. And listen, you can make the argument there's like, oh, it's the fanfare and they brought up the old characters. I don't care. It was fun. It was a good time.
Right.
It's gonna be Spider-Man No Way Home.
No Way Home. All right, I agree. I'm going to be very curious about your next two. Well, I know one of them because I spoiled it. Number two, it's weird that he's one of my least favorite superheroes of the entire franchise. And the first two movies sucked. Will they make my worst list? I don't know. We'll see. But the third one, directed by Taika Waititi, really took Marvel in a different place. It was a comedy. I don't care what anyone says. Thor Ragnarok straight up is a comedy. Obviously, Jeff Goldblum hilarious in this. Mark Ruffalo, his best performance as the Hulk, and Thor finally getting into his wheelhouse. It was so much fun. Thor Ragnarok, the third entry, number 2 on my list. Love that film.
Yeah,
I love the fact that it stepped out.
Would have been my number 6 if I had a slot. That one would have made it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. My number 2, again, this wouldn't be a complete list without a Avengers movie on here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put one, and once again, I think you said it best. But something about that snap, man, just solidified something.
Look at you! Look at us.
And you know, I might look back and say that Endgame might have been a better theater experience.
Yeah.
But when I really think about which was a better movie, it is Infinity War, because there's so much tension, and I remember just being like,
right.
I mean, your jaw drops. You're like, they can do that? They can just do that?
Right.
I have nothing else to say about this. It's going to be Avengers Infinity War for me.
Avengers Infinity War. All right, there you have it. Number 5 for me, Iron Man. Number 4, Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 3, Avengers Infinity War. And number 2, Thor Ragnarok. My number 1, I think, best Marvel movie of all time. Everyone knows I'm not a CGI guy. It's just not my jam. So if you want to take Chris Evans and you want to have him slide down the side of a building, and look, I know there's some CGI, but there's a lot of car explosions, there's a lot of gunfire, there's a lot of military bombastic scenes in this. Yeah, I know there's a flying plane at the end, but what a great story too. And this is where we really start to see the division that will eventually lead to Civil War, which, well, by the way, great film. Didn't quite make my top 10, but this one's even better because we start to see where the splinters are in the Marvel universe. If you're into that, it's on Jackson's list. It's number 1 on mine. I still have not enjoyed a Marvel movie as much as Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah. For my number 1, again, I feel like we all know where this is going. This is now the third entry from this particular superhero on my list. I have kind of a bias. This might be my favorite superhero ever. But there's something about the first animated Spider movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that just, even as an older teenager, I was like, man, I really just want to fly around with some webs.
Yeah.
There's something about that movie that I thought it was so original. Practically came out of nowhere. I thought that the voice acting was great. I thought that it was funny. It was action-packed. Everything that I could have wanted from a superhero movie wrapped into one, and I can only hope that the third one is even better. So it's going to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
So we know there was a big cliffhanger at the end of the second one, heading into the third, and I think the third they announced will be the last until they decide not to. What does the third one have to do to top these two? I mean, are you of the school of like, nope, just keep doing what you're doing, don't go crazy with it, or are you like, no, we've kind of been in this world twice, you're gonna have to show us something new? What are your thoughts?
I think something new, but I think I'm mostly excited to just see what happens with the characters. Like, there was so much conflict built up around him and his family, and the tensions between him and the
uncle,
the other Spider-Men, and him and the girl, and it was like there's just so much that he has to go through, and I think I'm just curious to see how Miles as a character handles that. Ultimately, I really did love the second one a lot, but the only reason it was lower on my list was just because it did end on a cliffhanger, and it was a little bit jarring, where I was like, oh, we're done? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love those movies, and I'll be first in line to see the third one.
All right, well, there you have it. Do you agree or disagree? Comment below, please. Drop us your comments and let us know if we're completely insane. What are we missing? What did we forget? So with the best comes the not so best. Our top 5 not so best Marvel movies. Little disclaimer here: we both have not seen the Marvels, which we heard was not very good, and Jackson's already made us very well aware that if it sounds like it sucks, he's not going. So there's probably a few maybe he has not. So I might be carrying the heavy weight on
but it's not just that though. It's because I can't keep up anymore. It's like I have to have watched like 5 TV shows to understand.
Yeah.
I don't know any of the Avengers anymore. I feel like they're all gone. I'm a lost puppy.
I don't have time to watch Loki on Disney and Hawkeye's Christmas special and what's the WandaVision and everyone's
WandaVision and the Secret Society or whatever. I don't even know.
I feel like the last 10 movies I've seen, I've had to like text my geek friends and go, who was the guy that was in that last scene? And they go, oh, if you had watched WandaVision season 2, you would know that's the. And I'm like, I'm done. Done.
Sorry.
Well, not. Yeah. We'll dip our toes, but it's got to be something special. Number 5 on my not so best Marvel movies of all time. I hate to do this too but again, it just felt so PC. It was really CGI laced, and I just was not invested in the characters at all. I'm sure she's sweet, and she was very fine. She was fine in The Farewell, but I'm not an Awkwafina fan. And this movie just didn't strike a chord with me at all, right up to the big blown-up dragon fighting scenes at the end. I don't find him engaging as a superhero, and I don't really want to know his origin story. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I don't remember if you even saw that, Jackson, or I think I might have warned you away.
I did see that. I did see that movie.
Okay, well, let's see. Maybe it will. Maybe it will not be on your list, but it's certainly, I thought it was a time waster. What about you, number 5?
Number 5 on my list is interesting because this one made my list for a very particular reason, and it's because this movie could have done so much with such an interesting and creative villain and just shit the bed in every way. I thought that the action sequences were bland. I thought that they introduced new characters that I wasn't really crazy about. And again, just a colossal waste of what could have been a great, interesting villain. And it's going to be Avengers Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
That really didn't do it for me.
The villain was, for those who don't remember, was a robot voiced by, why am I forgetting? From The Blacklist. James Spader was the voice of Age of Ultron. Yeah. I think it's one of the more forgettable ones. Wouldn't you agree?
And it was from that weird, like, really, like, metallic-looking Avenger, where I was just like, I hated that look, and it was just, I don't know, everything about it, it's completely the worst of all the Avengers films, in my opinion, so that's why it made my number 5, just for disappointment reasons.
No, I get it. Number 4 on my list is Avengers Age of Ultron. I agree with you 100%, Jackson. And I'll just add this that we haven't said. It's one of those Avengers movies that does not advance the story at all. It's like a one-off
over
piece.
And done with.
It's like we get the one-off stories when they're separate, but when you bring the Avengers together, let's move that story forward. And it's really just kind of a standalone with an undynamic villain. And I believe it's the first time we see
Vision.
Vision and Quicksilver and those guys, and it just doesn't bring anything to it. So I agree with you. Number 4 for me, Avengers Age of Ultron. What about you, number 4?
Number 4 for me, and this is interesting because, as we know, as I said earlier, Thor Ragnarok would have easily made my top 10 list. I thought it was a hilarious movie, incredibly well done.
Mm-hmm.
The movie that followed Thor Ragnarok, I felt, was a tonal mess. Yeah. Everything that made Thor Ragnarok great fell short for me with this one. I think you said it best when you said Christian Bale was in a different movie this whole time. I can't believe they dragged him into this somehow. And mostly it's just a completely riskless and safe movie to make overall. So Thor Love and Thunder is going to be my number 4.
Excellent pick.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me is a movie that should have worked on paper. So say what you will about Angelina Jolie. She's a great actress. You got Barry Keoghan here, kind of the hot kid on the block right now, and a fantastic actor. Kamal, help me with the can't.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Look up from The Big Sick. Why am I blanking on his name? They worked him out in the gym. Comic on.
I'm totally blanking on his name.
I know. I listen. If you're out there, I enjoy your work. Not in this particular.
Kumail Nanjiani.
Yes.
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani.
This was going to bring a whole new set of characters in and relaunch the franchise, and it did anything but. I don't know if Jackson put himself through this, but boy, what a colossal letdown. Eternals
I never saw it, and I
was.
didn't even know that Barry was in this. That's
Yeah.
You said his name, and I was like, he was in a Marvel movie?
Oh, he's one of the main. He's one of the Eternals. We're putting together a new team, and it's a train wreck. Eternals is my
Chloe
number
Zhao,
3
too. Oscar Best Picture winner.
for Nomadland. The director of this was her follow up. You do Nomadland, you win an Oscar, you get to do a really shitty Marvel movie. Number 3 for you, buddy.
Number 3 for me. I think that the most disappointing part of this movie for me was I just love Tony Leung so much, and having to see him absolutely phone in, and not even phone in. He wasn't a bad in this, but just watching him be in such a soulless movie with so many talented people too. Because you said the guy who played Shang-Chi was hilarious in Barbie.
Yeah,
I've heard great things about Awkwafina in The Farewell, although I did find her quite insufferable in this.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, man, there's so many great, talented people in this movie. Tony Leung in some of my favorite films ever made, and it just was not good. Everything about it was not good. And so number 3 is going to be Shang-Chi and the Seven Rings.
Yeah, I want this to come out correct. I don't want controversy, but how about we just do a movie about Shang-Chi, this really cool superhero, and it doesn't have to be about the heritages of ancient China and all this backstory and take place. How about Shang-Chi is just dealing with some computer. It's not like Captain America's origin story has to get into like what it's like to be a white man in the Midwest and growing up. I mean, it's like just have a kick-ass Asian superhero and let him just go fight crime. We don't have to have this whole like your father's ancestry and a lot of geishas and I just feel like I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like
but I get it. I also I think that they didn't have a choice though, because I think that's what the source material
that
is.
It probably is the source material.
I don't know. I think especially after watching, for me, like just seeing Hard Boiled, it was like, God, what the hell? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was on my mind, and I had to throw it on here.
No, it's number 5 on mine, just a little higher up on yours. Number 2 on my list, Jackson mentioned it. I guess what's so sad about this one, Jackson, is that it did follow Ragnarok, but also they brought back Taika Waititi. They brought him back, and he just shit the bed on this one. I mean, I love the guy. I love Jojo Rabbit. I loved Ragnarok, but he's 0 for 2 right now after the soccer movie this year, with what's his name, Michael from The Killer. Why am I blanking? No goal.
Fassbender.
Michael
Fassbender.
Yeah, that just was not good, and the Thor follow up. So I really want the guy that Jackson just said that I always blank on his name. I mean, I know it, I just can't pronounce it.
Taika
Waititi. I wish he could have done so much more with the follow-up. He phoned it in, bails on another movie. Thor, Love, and Thunder is horrendous. Number 2 on my list.
My number 2 is interesting because I know that I did not get to see Ant-Man Quantumania. So, for all I know, there could be a worse installment to this series, but my God, was Ant-Man and the Wasp so hard to get through. I mean, I could just go down. First of all, they dragged Walter Goggins into this, who is just an unbelievable actor and such a waste of a good talent. I don't know what anyone was thinking. To be honest, My biggest critique of this is just forgettable. It was I saw it and I left the theater and I was like, wow, I don't remember a single thing that's happened. It was just everything about it was just a worse version of the original, which, by the way, I was never crazy about anyways. No. I don't find the character interesting. I don't even think he's he just gets big and small, and I guess that can be interesting.
Right.
But wow, did they butcher it here. So yeah, sorry, Paul Rudd, but Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Wow. I think Ant-Man works fine as like just a 10-minute character in the movie. Like when he shows up in Civil War or something and he's in and out, you're like, okay, Ant-Man did his thing, is left. It was hard to put a movie around him, just him. And Ant-Man,
which is why I don't know whether they're banking on him to be like the OG Avenger that's still a part of the series.
That's still a part of it, yeah. And then I agree with you on Ant-Man and the Wasp, and nothing against Evangelina Lilly, but okay, so you have another character named the Wasp, and what are her powers? Oh, the same as Ant-Man, but she just has a vagina? Okay, so we have a female Ant-Man. I'm like, if you're going to have a cohort, at least have them do something slightly different, so I'm not like, well, who's getting bigger and shorter next? So I agree with you. The first Ant-Man was not very good. Ant-Man and the Wasp was not good at all. And my number one pick of not so great Marvel movies is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. If you did not like the second one, Jackson, by all means, please avoid number 3. Despite everything going on with Jonathan Majors and a valiant effort to try to make Kang the Conqueror the next Thanos of this next chapter, he's hit and miss. The story is so convoluted. It is all shot on green screen, so everything is done in this world where I just see actors standing in front of green screens. And there should be a law that if you put Bill Murray in a movie like this and he can't even make you laugh, somebody should be held accountable legally. I really don't know where the Marvel Universe is going. This was supposed to be the flagship one to launch it. It tanked at the theater, and for very good reason. It is not just one of the worst movies of this year. It is my not best Marvel movie of all time. You dodged a bullet on that one, Jackson.
Yeah, I think so too. Good pick. My number one. I'm shocked this didn't come up on your list because
I have a feeling.
I
have a feeling it didn't because I think you're going to pick a Marvel Sony hybrid, but we'll see.
No. Oh no. Wait. What did you think I was going to pick?
I thought you might be going with Morbius or.
Oh, you know what? That would have been a great pick. I forgot that was Marvel even until you just said it now.
It's a Marvel Sony.
Right.
You know,
it's one of those.
It's that weird.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know why they're letting this guy direct movies still, personally.
Oh boy. What is this? I don't know.
The rap sheet's tough. This is the same guy who directed Terminator Genesis, that 2015 nightmare of a Terminator resurrection, as well as The Many Saints of Newark, that terrible Tony Soprano origin story film that came out recently.
Oh yeah.
So whoever thought it was a good idea for this guy to direct the sequel to Thor, I don't know why. Thor: The Dark World, in my opinion, is the worst Marvel movie. Just so dark and moody for no reason. It's like everything that I hated about that metallic, like grimy looking Marvel era, and it's the most maximal version of that. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth have the chemistry of a bug and a dog.
None.
I mean, Anthony Hopkins is dragged into this as Odin, and it's just, God, what's going on? Christopher Eccleston, who was in Doctor Who, which is a TV show I used to love, and has also been in 28 Days Later, somehow also got dragged into this as the villain. I mean, this was the perfect recipe for a horrible movie, and that it was. This is my number one pick for the least best Marvel movie of all time.
It's a solid pick. It would have probably been number 6 on my list. I think the only reason it didn't break it wide open is because I hated Love and Thunder so much more.
Yeah.
And I felt like I'd already spat on Thor enough. And I remember with the Dark World, I don't remember with Dark World going, this is bad. I just remember going, I'm bored. Like I remember boredom more than I do anything with that movie. Whereas I think with some of the others, I felt like not only am I bored, this is not even like performed well. But there you have it.
Yeah.
Hey, geeks, look what we did. That's called A Little Favor for You. We'll be back in 2027 with our countdown of the new DC Universe movies. Until then, you're going to have to sit through a lot of art house corners to get through that. We are the PGN podcast, two generations talking movies. Before I sign off, I do have one last thing to say. I got to see a fantastic movie this week. I went down to my son's university, and I saw a screening of his film called I'm Really, Really, Really Good. He was the director of photography on that. I watched it showcased with about 8 or 9 other films, and he knows I'm not a blow smoke up the ass guy. It was easily the best shot film of the entire
Thank you.
The entire evening, and one of the better films. It was certainly I mean, he did not write it, he did not direct it, but I can see his impression all over it, and I'm proud of you. I think you have a huge future.
That'll be out, by the way, on New Year's. So available to watch soon.
Yeah, so there you have it. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Anyways, like just come back.
What?
I rated it like you. That's what you do all the time. I'll be like, I don't think it's going to be that bad. And he goes, I give it a 1. I'm like, oh my Lord. Well, there you go. Once again, thanks for listening as Jackson breaks down all his films on a scale of 1 to 10. I like the letters. I'm an A to F kind of guy, and that's what makes our generations different. We'll be back next week with more Academy Award buzz. Maybe we'll get out and see a film or two. Nothing super special. And then next week we will announce our next round of Love It As Much As I Do films once he's back on the West Coast. Until then, please follow Jackson Burns where, Mr. Burns?
Instagram and Twitter at Jackson N. Burns. That's it.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram at PGN Podcast or me, myself, and I at Regan.Burns. That's not DOT, by the way. That's a period. I don't ever know what to say, period or dot, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Until then, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays, and have a fantastic New Year. Love you, buddy.
Love you, too.